For 11 years, I mistook dependence for love. My name is Daniel. I own a small HVAC company, the kind of business built on cracked knuckles, emergency calls, and summers spent crawling through attics hot enough to make a man forget his own name. I never became wealthy, but I became useful. When I married Laura, her daughter Emma was 14. Her biological father floated in and out of her life like smoke. He sent birthday messages late, made promises he forgot, and appeared just often enough to remain a hero in her imagination. I was the one who stayed. I paid the mortgage on the house Laura wanted. I paid for the 2 cars in the driveway. I covered insurance, groceries, phone plans, internet, vacations, medical bills, and every quiet expense that keeps a family from feeling poor. When Emma went to college, I paid her tuition. No loans. No part-time job. No fear. I wanted her to have the beginning I never had. I wanted her to walk into adulthood without debt chained around her ankles. She never thanked me. Not sincerely. Laura always said Emma was young. She said gratitude would come later, when she matured, when she understood what life cost. So I waited. Year after year I waited. I paid for textbooks she left unopened. I paid for gas so she could drive home on weekends and barely speak to me. I paid her car insurance after 2 speeding tickets. I paid for streaming subscriptions, clothes, restaurants, spring break trips, and a bank card she used as though money appeared by magic. She called her biological father Dad. She called me Daniel. I told myself names did not matter. That was another lie. The end came on a Thursday evening. I had worked 14 hours replacing a failed commercial system at a grocery store. My shirt was stiff with sweat and insulation dust. My hands were split at the fingertips. I walked into my own kitchen and found Emma sitting at the island, complaining to Laura that I had asked why her credit card balance was so high. She stared at me as if I were an intruder. "You act like you own me because you pay for things," she said. I set my keys on the counter. "I asked a question, Emma. You're always asking questions. Where I went. What I bought. When I'm coming home. You're not my father." Laura stood beside the sink. Silent. I looked at my wife, waiting for the smallest defense. It never came. Then Emma leaned forward and gave me the sentence that ended our family. "I'd rather live on the street than take a single thing from you." The room went still. I remember the refrigerator humming behind me. I remember the smell of reheated food. I remember Laura lowering her eyes. That silence hurt more than Emma's words. Because Emma was angry. Laura was choosing. I nodded once. "All right," I said. Emma laughed under her breath, believing she had won. She had no idea what agreement sounded like. That night, I sat alone in my office. Around me were 11 years of statements, invoices, tuition receipts, insurance renewals, and automatic payments. The paper trail of a man trying to buy his way into a family. I did not shout. I did not drink. I simply opened my laptop. First, I canceled the tuition transfer. Then the phone payment. Then the car insurance. Gas card. Streaming services. Gym membership. Cloud storage. Meal delivery account. Her spending card. Every subscription. Every convenience. Every invisible thread connecting her comfort to my labor. Then I separated Laura's personal expenses from the household account. I left the mortgage and utilities covered because my name was on the house. Everything else became hers. When I finished, it was after midnight. For the first time in 11 years, my money belonged to me. The consequences arrived quickly. Emma's card stopped working at a restaurant the next afternoon. She called Laura, who called me. I declined both calls. 2 days later, Emma discovered her phone bill was overdue. Then the insurance company sent notice that her car policy would lapse. She stormed into the house waving the letter. "What did you do?" I looked up from the invoice I was reviewing. "I respected your decision." "This isn't funny." "I agree. You canceled my insurance. Yes. I need my car. Then insure it. Her face twisted with disbelief. With what money? I held her gaze. That sounds like a question for your father. She called him that evening. The man she had defended for years lasted less than 4 minutes. He told her he had bills of his own. He said college was expensive. He suggested she get a job. Then he stopped answering. A week later, the college restricted her account because tuition had not been paid. She lost access to several online courses and was warned she could be dropped from the semester. That was when Laura came to me. She stood in my office doorway, pale and exhausted. You have to fix this. No. Daniel, she could lose the semester. I know. She didn't mean what she said. She meant enough for you to stay silent. Laura flinched. I closed the folder in front of me. For 11 years, I carried this family. I never asked Emma to call me Dad. I never asked her to forget her father. I asked for basic respect. She told me she would rather live on the street than accept anything from me. You heard her. You said nothing. I froze. No. You chose not to risk upsetting her. Tears filled her eyes. She's my daughter. And I was your husband. That was the first time she understood what had broken. Not the tuition. Not the insurance. Not the bank card. Us. Over the following weeks, the house became a place of accusations and closed doors. Emma blamed me for every inconvenience. Laura begged me to restore one payment, then another. I refused. Not because I hated them. Because I finally believed them. Emma moved in with her biological father. She lasted 9 days. His apartment was small. He would not lend her his car. He expected her to pay for groceries and told her he could not afford tuition. The man she had worshipped became ordinary the moment responsibility arrived. Laura moved temporarily to her sister's house after telling me she could no longer live with the tension. Before she left, she stood in the hallway with a suitcase beside her. I should have defended you, she whispered. Yes. I thought you would always be here. I was. That was the problem, she cried then. I did not. By that point, grief had already burned through me and left something harder behind. Peace. The house is quiet now. I wake before sunrise, make coffee, and go to work. I no longer dread checking my bank account. I no longer measure my worth by how much discomfort I can absorb for other people. Laura sends messages sometimes. Emma sent one apology. It came after her father refused to help with another bill. I read it twice. Then I put my phone down. Maybe they regret losing me. Maybe they only regret losing what I provided. I no longer know. And I no longer need to. 11 years taught me one truth I wish I had understood sooner. Love without respect becomes exploitation. A man can give until his hands are empty, his back is broken, and his name disappears from the family he supports. But the moment he stops paying, everyone suddenly remembers where the money came from. So tell me, was I wrong to close my wallet after they closed their hearts? Or should I have continued financing a family that had already decided I was not part of it? The first winter after Laura left was colder than any I remembered. Not outside. Inside the house. The furnace worked perfectly. Of course it did. I had installed it myself 3 years earlier, after Laura complained that the old system made too much noise at night. I had spent an entire Sunday tearing out ductwork while Emma sat on the couch watching television, annoyed whenever I crossed in front of the screen. Now the furnace whispered through empty rooms. No doors slammed. No voices demanded passwords, payments, or explanations. Only silence. At first, I thought I would enjoy it. I had spent years imagining what peace might feel like. I pictured drinking coffee without hearing Emma complain about her car. I pictured coming home without Laura handing me another bill before I had removed my boots. But peace and loneliness were similar faces in the dark. Some nights, I would wake and reach toward Laura's side of the bed before remembering she was gone. Then I would lie still, staring at the ceiling, wondering whether dignity was supposed to feel this empty. I never doubted my decision. I doubted everything that had led to it. 11 years. That number followed me everywhere. 11 Christmas mornings when I sat behind a camera while Emma opened gifts bought with my overtime. 11 summers when Laura planned vacations and I calculated how many service calls it would take to pay for them. 11 years of telling myself that sacrifice was proof of love. Maybe it was. But sacrifice offered to people who despise the giver is not love. It is permission. Laura called on a Tuesday evening. I almost ignored it, but something in me still responded to her name. Daniel, she said. Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. What happened? She paused. I had learned that every pause from Laura concealed a request. Emma needs help. There it was. Not I miss you. Not how are you. Emma needs help. What kind? She's staying with a friend now. Her father told her she couldn't remain at his apartment unless she contributed to rent. She found a job at a clothing store, but they only give her 20 hours a week. I said nothing. She can't afford her tuition balance. Laura continued. If it isn't paid by Friday, she'll lose the credits from this semester. That is unfortunate. Laura inhaled sharply. You sound like you're talking about a stranger. She chose to make herself one. She is still young. She is 22. People say terrible things when they're angry. And adults live with what they say. Her voice broke. Please, Daniel. Just pay the balance. You can send it directly to the college. She won't touch the money. I looked around my office. On the wall hung a photograph from Emma's high school graduation. I stood at the edge of the frame while Laura and Emma embraced in the center. Her biological father had arrived late, posed for pictures, and left before dinner. Emma had posted one of those pictures online. She cropped me out. How much? I asked. Laura answered quickly. Too quickly. She had rehearsed the number. It was more than $12,000. I thought about the service van that needed a new transmission. I thought about my employees, 2 of whom had children of their own. I thought about the retirement account I had drained once already to keep Emma debt-free. No. Laura began crying. Not loudly. That made it worse. I made a mistake, she whispered. I know I did. I should have stopped her. I should have defended you. Yes. I was afraid she would leave me. So you let her destroy us instead. I thought you were stronger. The words settled heavily between us. I almost laughed. That was how she had justified everything. Daniel is strong. Daniel can handle it. Daniel will understand. Strength had become the excuse they used whenever they wanted to hurt me without consequence. I was strong, I said. Strong enough to leave the arrangement you called a marriage. I still love you. No. You loved what I absorbed. She denied it. She talked about memories, holidays, the first house we rented, the nights we stayed awake making plans. She reminded me that not every year had been bad. She was right. That was the cruelest part. There had been good days. Real ones. Laura sleeping against my shoulder during long drives. Emma giving me a handmade birthday card when she was 15. Laughter around the dinner table before entitlement hardened into contempt. The past was not entirely false. It simply had not survived. Come home, I said quietly. Laura stopped crying. What? Come home without asking me to pay anything. Come home without Emma's bills. Come home because you want your husband. Silence. Long complete. I already knew the answer. I can't abandon my daughter, she finally said. I did not ask you to. She has nobody. She has you. She has her father. She has herself. She needs us. No, Laura. She needs money. And whenever she needs money, you remember that I exist. That isn't fair. Neither was your silence. She hung up. 3 days later, Emma came to the house. I saw her through the front window. She stood on the porch wearing an old coat I had bought her 2 winters earlier. Her hair was tied back. No makeup. No expensive bag hanging from her shoulder. For the first time, she looked tired. Human. I opened the door but did not invite her inside. Mom said you refused? I did. Her jaw tightened. I'm going to lose everything. No. You are going to lose something. My education. 1 semester. You don't care. I cared for 11 years. She looked past me into the house. Her eyes moved toward the staircase, the living room, the kitchen where she had rejected me. I was angry. She said. So was I. You ruined my life over 1 sentence. I felt something inside me turn cold. 1 sentence did not ruin your life. 1 sentence revealed what my place in it had always been. She lowered her eyes. I didn't mean I hated you. You meant you did not respect me. I just didn't want you controlling me. I asked about a credit card bill. It felt like control. That card carried my name. She had no answer. The wind moved through the bare trees behind her. She folded her arms against the cold but refused to leave. Then she said the words I had expected from the beginning. If you ever loved me, you'd help me. There it was. Love measured in payments. Forgiveness priced at $12,000. I stepped closer. If you ever loved me, you would have apologized before the money ran out. Her face changed. The shame vanished. Anger returned. You're enjoying this. No. You want to see me suffer. No, Emma. I wanted to see you succeed. I paid for that future until you told me my place in your life. Now I am allowing you to build your future without the man you said you would rather sleep on the street than accept help from. She stared at me. For 1 moment, I saw the child she had once been. Then the door between us closed again. I'll never forgive you, she said. I nodded. That is your right. I shut the door gently. No shouting. No final insult. Just wood meeting the frame. Through the window, I watched her stand there for several seconds before walking toward an unfamiliar car waiting at the curb. Laura sat behind the wheel. Neither of them looked back. That night, I removed the graduation photograph from my office wall. I did not tear it apart. I placed it in a drawer with the receipts, cards, and other evidence of a family that had existed mostly because I paid to hold it together. Then I turned off the light. I understood something as the darkness settled around me. They had always mistaken my endurance for weakness. And I had mistaken their need for love. Now that the money was gone, we were finally seeing one another clearly. So tell me, was closing that door an act of cruelty? Or was it the first honest thing I had done in 11 years? Spring arrived without asking whether I was ready for it. The trees outside my house turned green again, flowers pushed through the soil, and my HVAC business entered its busiest season. Air conditioners failed across the county, and my phone never stopped ringing. For the first time in years, every dollar I earned stayed where it belonged. In my account. Not in someone else's expectations. It felt strange. Every Friday I looked at my banking app out of habit, expecting thousands of dollars to disappear into tuition payments, insurance premiums, streaming services, phone plans, gas cards, and emergency expenses that somehow always became my responsibility. Nothing vanished. The balance kept growing. One afternoon my accountant looked over the quarterly reports and smiled. "Daniel, this is the healthiest your business has ever been." I almost laughed. Nothing about my life had ever looked healthier while feeling so broken. I replaced 2 aging service vans instead of repairing them for the 5th time. I gave my employees raises they had deserved for years. I finally contributed to the retirement account I had neglected while financing someone else's future. The irony wasn't lost on me. The moment I stopped carrying people who rejected me, I finally had enough strength to carry myself. Then Laura called again. This time I let the phone ring until voicemail answered. A minute later, a text appeared. "Please. Just hear me out." I ignored it. Another message arrived. Emma wants to apologize. That sentence held my attention longer than I expected. Not because I believed it. Because timing reveals motive better than words ever can. 3 months had passed since I stopped paying. 3 months of unpaid bills. 3 months of learning that her biological father loved excuses far more than responsibility. Now, suddenly, there was an apology. I replied with 2 words. Come tomorrow. The next evening they arrived together. Laura looked older. Worry had settled around her eyes in permanent shadows. Emma looked different too. The expensive clothes were gone. Her nails were unpainted. There was something humbling about seeing adulthood arrive all at once. I invited them inside. Nobody sat in my usual chair. Nobody acted as though they owned the house. We remained around the dining table where everything had fallen apart months earlier. Emma spoke first. I'm sorry. I waited. Silence stretched between us. Finally I asked. For what? She blinked. For what I said. What exactly did you say? She swallowed. I said I'd rather live on the street than take anything from you. And? I shouldn't have. Why? Another silence. Laura reached for her daughter's hand. Emma pulled away. I was angry. No. She frowned. I was. You were honest. Her face tightened. I wasn't. You didn't apologize until the consequences became expensive. Laura finally interrupted. Daniel, please don't do this. I looked at my wife. This is exactly what should have happened the night she humiliated me. Emma stared at the tabletop. I didn't understand everything you paid. You never asked? I know. You never thanked me. I know. You never defended me when your friends joked that I was just your mother's husband. Tears formed in her eyes. I know. I leaned back in my chair. Then tell me something only an honest person would know. She looked confused. What? If every bill had continued to be paid, would you be sitting here tonight? The room became perfectly still. Laura closed her eyes. Emma opened her mouth. Nothing came out. That answer told me everything. She wasn't apologizing because she had discovered respect. She was apologizing because comfort had disappeared. There is a difference. A painful one. I can't change the past, she whispered. No. I can change the future. Can you? She nodded quickly. I'll pay you back. I almost smiled. It was never about the money. I know. No, Emma. You don't. I stood and walked toward the window. Outside, one of my technicians was loading equipment into a van for the next morning. Good men. Hardworking men. Men who kissed their children goodbye before leaving for 12-hour shifts. None of them would tolerate being treated the way I had tolerated for 11 years. I confused generosity with obligation, I said quietly. That was my mistake. I believed that if I gave enough, eventually I'd earn a place in your heart. You did. I turned around. No. I earned a place in your budget. Laura started crying again. Real tears. Not dramatic. Just exhausted. I failed you, she whispered. Yes. I kept waiting for things to get better. They only get better when someone refuses to accept worse. Emma wiped her face. So, what happens now? It was the question both of them had come to ask. Would I restore the tuition? Would I reopen my wallet? Would everything return to the comfortable arrangement they had mistaken for family? I answered without hesitation. Nothing. Their expressions collapsed. You both continue living the lives you chose. Laura's shoulders sagged. Emma looked as though she wanted to argue, but the words never arrived. She finally understood something I had learned months earlier. Some doors are not locked. They simply close. And once respect dies behind them, money cannot buy the key. They left together just before sunset. Laura paused on the porch. I really did love you. I nodded slowly. I believe you. Hope appeared in her eyes. Then I finished the sentence. But love that never speaks when respect is being destroyed isn't strong enough to save a marriage. She lowered her head. Neither of us said goodbye. As their car disappeared down the street, I realized I felt no anger. No satisfaction. Only clarity. The greatest mistake of my life was believing that endless sacrifice could replace mutual respect. It cannot. One keeps a household running. The other keeps a family alive. Without both, all that's left is a collection of people sharing the same roof until the money runs out. And ours had finally reached that moment of truth. 6 months passed before I heard Emma's voice again. Not through Laura. Not through a lawyer. Not through a message asking for money. She called me herself. I almost didn't answer. Old habits die slowly, and for months every unexpected phone call had carried the same expectation, another request, another crisis, another attempt to reopen the account they had mistaken for love. This time, there was only silence. Finally, she spoke. "Hi, Daniel." She still couldn't call me anything else. "Hello, Emma? I know you probably don't want to hear from me." I picked up. Another pause. "I've been working. I'm glad. I have 2 jobs now." "I hope they're treating you well." She laughed softly. "They're not. No. They expect you to show up every day. Most employers do. They don't care if you're tired. They usually don't." She sighed. "I think I finally understand why you always came home exhausted." I leaned back in my chair without saying a word. "I used to think money just happened." She continued. "Now I know what 8 hours on your feet feels like. I know what it's like to skip lunch because you're trying to save $20. Outside my office window, one of my technicians loaded compressors into a truck before another service call. I remember doing the same thing 20 years earlier. "You've learned something valuable," I said. "I learned it too late. Better late than never. I lost the apartment. I'm sorry. I moved into a tiny studio with another girl from work." "That sounds difficult." "It is." Her voice became quieter. "I sold the car. That surprised me. The insurance was too expensive." I closed my eyes. For years I had paid those premiums without complaint. Not once had she wondered where the money came from. Now every monthly payment belonged to her. Reality has remarkable teaching methods. "My father hasn't called in weeks," she admitted. "I see. He said I needed to become independent." The irony was almost unbearable. "The same advice I gave you months ago." "I know. You just didn't want to hear it from me." She whispered one word. "No." The conversation drifted into silence again. Neither of us rushed to fill it. Then she asked the question that mattered. "Can I ask you something honestly?" "Go ahead." "When you stopped paying for everything, did it hurt you?" I answered without hesitation. "Yes." "I thought you were trying to punish me." "I wasn't. It felt like revenge. It felt like survival." She didn't interrupt. "For 11 years. I continued. I kept telling myself that if I loved you enough, eventually you would see me as family. Instead, every sacrifice became another expectation. Every payment became something you believed you deserved. I wasn't withdrawing love, Emma. I was withdrawing from a relationship that had become exploitation." She cried quietly. "I never wanted to exploit you. I believe that now." "You do?" "Yes." "What changed?" "You stopped talking about money." Another long silence settled between us. "I still don't know if you can forgive me," she whispered. "I already forgave you." She sounded shocked. "You did?" "Forgiveness and trust aren't the same thing." "I understand." "I hope you do." "I really do." For the first time since our family fell apart, I believed she meant what she said. Not because of the words. Because there was nothing attached to them. No request. No invoice. No deadline. Just honesty. When we ended the call, I sat alone for a long time. Forgiveness had arrived quietly, without fanfare. Trust had not. That would require years, not minutes. Laura called later that evening. Emma told me you spoke. We did. She sounded different. She is. Laura hesitated before asking. Do you think there's any chance we could ever be a family again? I looked around the empty kitchen. The same table. The same walls. The same house. Everything was familiar. Nothing was the same. I don't know, I answered truthfully. I miss you. I know. I miss us. So do I. Those words surprised even me. Because I did miss something. Not the arguments. Not the disrespect. I missed the version of us I had believed existed. The dream. The hope. The illusion that effort alone could hold three hearts together. I've started counseling, Laura said. I'm glad. The therapist asked me why I stayed silent that night. I waited. I told her I was afraid of losing my daughter. And she asked me why I wasn't equally afraid of losing my husband. The question lingered between us. I didn't have an answer. You do now. Yes. What is it? I thought you would never leave. I closed my eyes. There it is. I took you for granted. Yes. I kept believing you'd forgive everything because you always had. I won't make that mistake again. I know. Neither of us cried. Some conversations become too honest for tears. When we finally hung up, darkness had settled outside. I locked the front door, turned off the lights, and stood for a moment in the quiet house. Months earlier, the silence had felt empty. Now it felt earned. I finally understood that peace is not the absence of people. It is the absence of pretending. For years I had pretended that love could survive without respect. That giving more would somehow repair what gratitude never built. I was wrong. Love asks for sacrifice. Respect gives it meaning. Without both, every generous act eventually becomes another unpaid debt waiting to be collected. And I had finally stopped paying the bill.